Nature is full of terrifying predators. We've got lions that hunt in coordinated packs, great white sharks that can smell blood from miles away, and crocodiles that have existed unchanged for millions of years. But there's one predator that makes all of these look tame by comparison. Meet the Komodo dragon, a creature so deadly that it literally kills you with its spit. And I'm not exaggerating. These lizards have venom, bacteria, and hunting strategies that would make a serial killer jealous. They can eat 80% of their body weight in a single meal, track prey for miles using their tongue, and oh yeah, they can reproduce without males. That's right, virgin birth. In lizards. But here's the craziest part. Despite being cold-blooded reptiles, they're warm-blooded when they hunt. Their metabolism shifts like a biological switch, turning them from sluggish lizards into relentless killing machines in minutes. Today, we're talking about why Komodo dragons are the most metal predators on Earth, and why everything you thought you knew about them is probably wrong. Now, before we dive into the nightmare fuel, let's get one thing straight. Komodo dragons aren't actually dragons. Shocking, I know. They're monitor lizards, the largest living species of lizard on the planet, to be exact. Scientifically known as Varanus komodoensis, these absolute units can grow up to 3 meters long, that's almost 10 feet, and weigh over 90 kilograms, 200 pounds. That's bigger than most adult humans. And they're only found in one place on Earth, a handful of Indonesian islands, with Komodo Island being the most famous. These islands are volcanic, harsh, and unforgiving, perfect for breeding apex predators that have zero natural enemies except each other. Here's what makes them so unique. Komodo dragons are the last remnants of a lineage of massive lizards that once roamed across Indonesia and Australia. Their ancestors were even bigger, some reaching 7 meters in length. But climate change and competition with humans drove most of them extinct. The Komodos? They survived by becoming the ultimate evolutionary killing machine. So let's break down exactly what makes these monsters so absolutely insane. For decades, scientists believed that Komodo dragons killed through septic bites. Basically, their mouths were so filthy with bacteria that one bite would cause a massive infection that slowly killed their prey. And yeah, their mouths are disgusting. But that's not the main weapon. In 2009, researchers discovered something shocking. Komodo dragons have venom glands. Real, actual venom. Located in their lower jaw, these glands produce a cocktail of toxic proteins that would make a snake envious. So what does this venom do? It's a 3-pronged attack that's honestly genius in the most terrifying way possible. First, it prevents blood clotting. The venom contains anticoagulants that keep wounds bleeding continuously. Second, it causes massive drops in blood pressure by dilating blood vessels. And third, it induces shock and muscle weakness, preventing the prey from fighting back or escaping. But here's where it gets even more brutal. Komodo dragons don't kill you quickly. They're ambush predators. They'll hide near water holes or game trails, wait for prey, deer, wild boar, water buffalo, sometimes even humans, and then strike. One bite. That's all it takes. Then they just wait. The venom does its work slowly. The prey staggers away, getting weaker by the minute as it bleeds internally and externally. Its blood pressure crashes. It goes into shock. And the Komodo? It just follows. Using its incredibly powerful sense of smell, it can track wounded prey for kilometers, sometimes for days, until the animal finally collapses. And then comes the feast. Komodos have hinged jaws like snakes, allowing them to open their mouths impossibly wide. They have serrated teeth designed to rip and tear, not chew. They swallow massive chunks of meat whole, organs, bones, fur, everything. In a single feeding session, a Komodo can eat up to 80% of its body weight. That's like a 70 kilograms human eating 56 kilograms of food in one sitting. Absolutely insane. But wait, there's more. Remember that bacteria I mentioned? It's still there. Studies have found over 50 different species of bacteria in Komodo mouths, many of which are highly pathogenic. So even if the venom doesn't kill you, the infection probably will. There's a backup plan built into their biology. Nature really went overboard with these guys. Now, you might be thinking, okay, they have venom and nasty bacteria, but how do they even find prey in the first place? Great question. And the answer is, they taste the air. Komodo dragons have a forked tongue, just like snakes. They flick it out constantly, sampling air molecules. These molecules are then transferred to an organ in the roof of their mouth called the Jacobson's organ, which analyzes chemical signals with incredible precision. How precise? A Komodo can detect a dead or dying animal from up to 9.5 kilometers away. That's nearly 6 miles. They can distinguish between different types of prey, track the direction a scent is coming from, and even determine how long ago an animal passed through an area. It's like having a GPS tracker combined with a chemical analysis lab built into your face. But their senses don't stop there. They also have decent eyesight. They can see objects clearly up to 300 meters away and can detect movement even better. Their hearing isn't great, but honestly, when you can smell death from 10 kilometers away, who needs ears? And here's a fun fact that makes them even more terrifying. Juvenile Komodos climb trees to hunt and escape from adults who will absolutely eat them given the chance. Yes, these massive lizards are cannibals. The only predator a young Komodo needs to fear is a bigger Komodo. Talk about a rough childhood. Alright, now let's talk about possibly the wildest thing about Komodo dragons. They don't actually need males to reproduce. I'm not joking. Female Komodos can reproduce through a process called parthenogenesis, virgin birth. In 2006, scientists were absolutely shocked when a female Komodo at a British zoo laid fertile eggs despite never having contact with a male. At first, they thought maybe she had stored sperm from a previous encounter. Some reptiles can do that. But genetic testing proved otherwise. The eggs were produced entirely from her own genetic material. No male required. Here's how it works. Normally, sexual reproduction combines DNA from 2 parents. But in parthenogenesis, the female's egg cells merge with another cell called a polar body, which is essentially a clone of her own DNA. The result? Baby Komodos that are essentially genetic clones, but here's the twist. They're all male. Why? Because of how Komodo sex chromosomes work. Unlike mammals where males are XY and females are XX, Komodos use a ZW system where males are ZZ and females are ZW. When a female reproduces alone, the only viable combinations are ZZ, male, or WW, which isn't viable. So all parthenogenetic offspring are male. But why would evolution allow this? It's actually brilliant. If a female Komodo somehow ends up isolated on an island with no males, which could happen after a storm, tsunami, or other natural event, she can still reproduce. Her sons can then mate with her to establish a new population. It's disturbing from a human perspective, but from an evolutionary standpoint, it's genius. It means Komodo dragons are almost impossible to completely wipe out. Now here's something that blew my mind when I first learned it. Komodo dragons can basically switch between being cold-blooded and warm-blooded depending on what they're doing. Normally, reptiles are ectothermic, cold-blooded, meaning they rely on external heat sources to regulate body temperature. That's why you see lizards basking in the sun. But when Komodos hunt, something crazy happens. Their metabolism shifts. Their muscles generate heat internally, and their body temperature rises significantly, allowing them to move with speed and power that shouldn't be possible for a reptile their size. When actively hunting or feeding, Komodos can maintain body temperatures similar to mammals, around 35 to 37 degrees Celsius, 95 to 99 degrees Fahrenheit. This gives them stamina and strength that other reptiles simply don't have. They can sprint at speeds up to 20 kilometers per hour, 12 miles per hour, in short bursts, which doesn't sound that fast until you remember we're talking about a 90-kilogram lizard with venom and bacteria-filled jaws charging at you. But when they're not hunting, they switch back to normal reptile mode. They'll bask in the sun, conserve energy, and sometimes do absolutely nothing for days or even weeks between meals. It's like having a turbo mode they can turn on and off at will. Most efficient predator design ever. Now, Komodo dragons weren't known to Western science until 1910. But local Indonesian people had known about them for centuries, calling them ora, or land crocodiles. The stories they told were so wild that Western scientists initially dismissed them as myths. Giant lizards that could kill water buffalo? Sure, buddy. But in 1910, a Dutch colonial administrator finally confirmed their existence, and the scientific world lost its collective mind. Here were real-life dragons, not fire-breathing but close enough, living in the modern world. Since then, Komodos have become one of Indonesia's national symbols. They're protected by law, and Komodo National Park was established in 1980 specifically to preserve them and their habitat. The park is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. But despite their protected status, these incredible predators are in serious trouble. Here's the reality. There are only about 3,000 to 5,000 Komodo dragons left in the wild. That's it. And that number is dropping. Why? Climate change. Rising sea levels and increasing temperatures are threatening their habitat. These islands are small and low-lying. If sea levels continue to rise, significant portions of their habitat will simply vanish underwater. Projections suggest that climate change alone could reduce suitable Komodo habitat by at least 30% over the next 45 years. Then there's human encroachment. As human populations on these islands grow, conflicts increase. Komodos sometimes attack livestock or even humans, while rare, fatal attacks do happen. This leads to retaliatory killings. And then there's the prey problem. Komodos primarily hunt deer and wild boar. But these prey species are also being hunted by humans, reducing the food supply for Komodos. Less food means lower survival rates, especially for juveniles who already face the challenge of avoiding being eaten by adults. Additionally, tourism, while economically important, can disturb nesting sites and alter natural behaviors. And poaching, though illegal, still happens. There's a black market for Komodo specimens, skins, and even live animals. The IUCN Red List currently classifies Komodo dragons as endangered, and without serious conservation efforts, they could be upgraded to critically endangered within our lifetimes. Losing Komodo dragons wouldn't just be tragic, it would be an ecological disaster. They're apex predators that keep prey populations in check and maintain ecosystem balance. Without them, those islands' ecosystems would fundamentally change, likely for the worse. So what can we do? First, spread awareness. Most people don't even know Komodo dragons are endangered. Share this information. Talk about it. Make people care. Second, support conservation organizations working in Indonesia to protect Komodo habitat and combat poaching. I'll link some reputable organizations in the description. Third, if you're lucky enough to visit Komodo National Park, do it responsibly. Follow guide instructions, don't disturb wildlife, and remember that your tourism dollars directly fund conservation when done right. And finally, care about climate change, because the biggest threat to Komodos and countless other species is rising sea levels and habitat loss driven by global temperature increases. Komodo dragons are living dinosaurs, literally. They're evolutionary marvels that have survived millions of years. They have venom, bacterial backup weapons, virgin birth, metabolism switching, and sensory abilities that border on supernatural. They're not just cool, they're irreplaceable. But they can't survive without our help. So let's not be the generation that let real-life dragons go extinct. Thanks for watching, and remember, if you ever encounter a Komodo dragon in the wild, don't run. They're faster than you. Just don't go to Komodo Island without a guide.